Welcome to Introduction to Information Security. We are covering a chapter called Mobile Security. And in our previous lecture, we covered up to the points where we were talking about mobile devices and the different kind of attacks which usually takes place on these mobile devices. Now we'll be trying to explain the mobile device risks in this lecture today. The biggest risk at the moment with the mobile devices is installing the unsecured applications. Many mobile apps do not include security features. Now, it's a general practice. Most of the people who don't want to install the applications directly from the Play Store, they look for websites where there are APK files available for installation on Android mobile phones. Now, those applications are not digitally signed sometimes, and even if you're not downloading it from the Play Store, there is a big question on the authenticity of those applications. The applications that you find in these websites, since Google is not controlling it, they don't have the proper checks and balances in place. Anyone can modify the application and can upload it on these websites. Now, these unsecured applications can collect lots of information from your mobile phone or tablets, and they can upload it to the person who has uploaded the application, and in a silent way they can collect all your information about your pictures, your whereabouts, locations, GPS, contacts, SMS, and WhatsApp details, and all those applications. So it's not recommended at all to download any application from any other website other than the Play Store. Same goes for Apple iOS. They have their own uh, Apple Store through which you can download the applications which are quite authentic. Apple iOS is a closed and proprietary architecture, more difficult to attackers to create an app that could compromise the iOS device. But in case if you have jailbreak the iOS of your iPhone or anything like that, there are high chances that it can be compromised as well. Google Android OS is an open and not proprietary, makes Android apps highly risky. Most malicious apps are imitations of the legitimate and the popular apps, or are the Trojans which can be installed on your mobile phone, and they can get access to the mobile data and everything. Other problem is it has a limited security. It means that you cannot easily protect those things due to snatching and all those other things which are taking place. You can even forget it somewhere, or if it's stolen, or any unprotected data can be stolen as well if the screen is locked, if unlocked screen is not there, and if there is no pin code on that mobile phone, anyone can connect the cable and connect your computer to the mobile phone and can copy the data from the mobile device itself. Connecting to public networks, attackers can use different techniques of data transmission and view the sensitive information which is there on the mobile phones. It's highly recommended if you are connecting to a public network like in the shopping malls or hospitals and places like that, please do use the VPN if you have a proper and a paid good VPN service available on your mobile phone. Location tracking, mobile devices uses the location services that are increase the risk of targeting to physical attacks. They can see exactly where are you, and they can target the devices in that specific area. Now, accessing the untrusted content, mobile devices have the ability to access the untrusted content. For example, a quick response code, a matrix, or a two-dimensional barcode that can store the website URL information, etc., which is appearing on any document, card, entry card, or the identity card, etc., can be used to contain the malicious URL. You'll scan it, you'll think that it's a authentic website since the ad looks quite legitimate, but actually these are the websites which are being advertised on websites and even printed and displayed at different parts of the city and stuff, where people will scan it for discounts or anything catchy could be there, an advertisement through which you'll be obliged to scan it, and to you'll end up reaching a website through which your information can be compromised. Now let's try to understand the defenses against these kind of problems. Like, how can we protect ourselves from these kind of things? First of all, protect the wireless networks. We can protect the wireless networks by having a very strong password, alphanumeric, and having the proper security principles. Then protect the wireless devices that we have. It's highly recommended to have an antivirus on the mobile phone, or to have the proper securities that you are not installing any unauthentic applications on your mobile phone. Securing configure at home wireless network. Secure the router. Turn on the Wi-Fi protection like WPA2 personal or enterprise level in order to make the security principles so secure that people cannot easily get access to your Wi-Fi network. Securing the Wi-Fi router, like lock it down by password protecting, access it to the internal configuration settings. Even you can change the default username and password which is there for any Wi-Fi router. You know that there is a feature on the routers called WPA or WPS. When you click on that and you'll try to authenticate your mobile device to the same network, it won't ask for a key and you'll be authenticated on that router. And if that router is using a default username and password, any person who's connected to that router can get access to that and can look at the configuration of the router itself. So we must always change the default username of the username and password of the router, which comes in with the router itself. Router remote management settings can be disabled. You can only allow it so that if you are physically connected to the router with a cable, only then you must have access to the administration or the management of the router itself. Allows the configuration through the internet, so that must be disabled. Recommended to disallow the remote management unless and until needed. Now they are showing the basic configuration screen of a router. Enable the remote management, and here you can disable it. Now Wi-Fi protected access is WPA2 personal, or more secure is enterprise. Provide the optimum level of wireless security, encrypts the signals and prevent the unauthorized user from accessing it. Process for turning on WPAs: to enable it in the router, enter a key value on each authorized device, and key value needs to be entered only once per device so that your device is secure and no one is accessing it. More than that, make sure that your password is more than 10 characters, alphanumeric special characters, and then from time to time you must log into the Wi-Fi router and check that how many devices are connected on your wireless network. By looking at the settings or the devices which are connected to the Wi-Fi router would give you a clue that if all the devices which are connected to your router at the moment are the ones which are known to you. Maybe you will find a couple of devices which does not belong to your home network, because we all know the devices that we are using at home. So make sure that only those devices are connected to your Wi-Fi network. In case if you will encounter a device which is connected to your home network and you don't recognize it, you can blacklist it over there, and the person, if it belongs to you in your home, would be complaining himself or herself that my device is not working. Through that you can check and enable that device. Now here they are talking about different security settings of a Wi-Fi router. Some people are keeping it none, so it's open for any kind of attacks. Anyone can access the device and can get a free access to the internet. The basic one which you can keep is WPA2 PSK, which is AES enabled, which is the basic kind of security. If you want to enhance it, you can go to WPA PSK TKIP plus WPA2 PSK AES. It has a double security mechanism, or you can go to the enterprise level, depends. And then you can have a long password which is alphanumeric and special characters. Now, Wi-Fi protected setup (WPS) is the option means of configuring the security. Two common methods are: a pin method uses the pin printed on the router, or provide the software setup wizard through which you can connect to that router. Push button method uses the physical button on the router and the virtual one in the software itself. You'll simply click at the button and then your mobile will be authenticated with that device. Now, they are expecting that if someone is over there, it means that they have physical access to the device, so it should be a person who's inside the room. That's why this option is enabled. For me, I am keeping this option disabled as well, because in your absence, if someone comes in or presses that button, he'll be able to authenticate himself or herself to the same network, which of course I don't want it unless and until I know that these are the devices which are authenticated on my network. Other security settings are: add an additional degree of security. Security settings that strengthen the WPA2 security is change the SSID on frequent basis to an anonymous value that does not identify the owner or the location of the network. So if you are keeping a SSID, which is the name of your Wi-Fi network, to your house number or floor number, anyone can know that the signals are coming from this location. So maybe they'll come very close to the house from where they can get the maximum signals, and they'll try different techniques using different technologies or Linux servers or an application through which they'll try to penetrate in the security of the Wi-Fi networks. Turn on guest access. Users who connect to separate guest networks can only access the internet directly and other devices in the guest network. So if this feature is enabled on your Wi-Fi router, you can give the guest access to the guys who are coming to your house, like friends or anyone else, so that they don't have an open access to rest of the devices which are connected to your Wi-Fi network. Isolates the main network from the guest network, and they'll be accessing the internet without getting any privilege to the devices which are connected to the same network. Now, public network security is very important when we are accessing anything or any Wi-Fi network in a public places, because we talked about evil twin earlier, where a person would broadcast signal of the same SSID and would with a better signal strength. So instead of you being authenticated on your Wi-Fi network, you'll authenticate on this Wi-Fi network because the signals of this one would be stronger than the network that you are using. Once you will enter the username or the password, he will capture the password, and then maybe he'll disconnect and would use that password to authenticate to your original router at home. Attackers impersonate a legitimate Wi-Fi network, limit to the type of activity used only for simple web surfing or watching online videos. So you can set the settings to have a limited access on the public network. Do not access online banking sites and send confidential information when you are on these public networks. It's a very bad idea to get into e-banking or any application which you are using for sending any personal or confidential information using these public networks, because you never know who's monitoring these public Wi-Fi networks and what kind of information is being captured on these public networks. Use virtual private network. As I told you, if you have a VPN installed on your mobile phone and you really need to use any sensitive websites which might have the confidential information about you or your organization, always use a VPN connection so that they can further encrypt the transmission of the data between you and the router. Uses an unsecure public network as if it was a secure private network. Now, a wireless network, an attacker can ad hoc the network from free airport wireless with a initial airport, for example, a wireless legitimate wireless network. So he'll have a network over here, and the attacker would have another wireless network with the same name, and the other person would think that this is the original network and would try to authenticate on this one rather than authenticating himself on this network. And once that's done, he'll capture the password on this one to use it later. Public network security, configuring the Bluetooths and disable enable only when necessary, and alternative set devices and undiscoverable. Bluetooth is good for lots of reasons. We are using it in order to connect to our smart gadgets like smart watches or our safety or the security bands or the fitness bands, etc. The best option in order to use that, it first of all, don't keep it enabled always. If you're not using it, it should be turned off. Second thing is set it undiscoverable so that people cannot unnecessarily scan the network and can find your device and could try to penetrate in your device. Securing mobile devices is initial setup of the device. Follow the best practices which are shown on the screen, and if they are saying that this is the best practice, you must enable it for the enhanced security. Follow the instructions which are appearing on the screen. Dealing with the theft or loss of the device. As I told you earlier in our previous lecture that there is an IMEI number. If your mobile phone is snatched or lost, and if you have purchased it, you have a proof of purchase. You can take it to the cellular company with whom you are registered, like your SIM card with any cellular company. You can take it over there, show them the proof of purchase, and they can disable that device on any network in the country. Device setup: disable the unused features which you are not using. It can serve as a threat vector. Like if a feature is enabled and you're not using it, maybe a person who's looking for a weakness would take it as an advantage and would try to penetrate in the device. Enable the lock screen. Most of the times when we are installing a VPN on our mobile phones, it forces us to have a pin or a biometric authentication on the device itself, so that it can protect you from any kind of mishap. Device is being used, or someone can get access. So that's the best way that you can have. You must have a password, a pin code, swipe pattern, or a fingerprint, touch ID, etc., to authenticate yourself. Or nowadays it's even authenticating it through the camera itself. Some devices can be configured with additional protection, like extended lockout period, or reset to factory settings if someone is constantly trying to enter a wrong password. Now that's a typical pattern that you can see, but the problem with patterns is that if someone is sitting nearby, they can easily follow the pattern, and they know that what is the pattern or the saved swipe pattern on your mobile phone. So I don't recommend using a pattern. A pin or a biometrics is a much better option. Now, a pin and the frequency of use, there's like most of the people who are keeping the password as 1234, or four times number one or zero, or repeated numbers or anything like that. They are giving the statistics of it, that how many percentage of the users are keeping the same password. So there are high chances that if you are keeping one of these pins on your mobile phones, 10% chances are that if you are keeping 1234, your mobile can be unlocked if stolen. Do not erase built-in limitations called the jailbreaking of the mobile phones in order to flash a custom ROM on the mobile phone, or we call it unrooting a Android device. Some people are doing it because of some malpractices, or they are trying to use the mobile phone for penetrating on the other devices. So it requires unrooting the mobile phone so that they can install some custom applications which are not available on the Play Store, which would help you in penetrating on the Wi-Fi networks. Do not sideload unapproved applications that you are finding in any other websites which are not authentic other than the Google Play Store or iOS Store. Use appropriate sanitization and disposal proposal for the mobile devices, that if you are gifting your mobile phone to someone, or if you are going to throw it away, there should be a proper mechanism through which you can get rid of all the data of the mobile phone before you hand it over to someone, or before you destroy the mobile phone and you're not using it anymore. Backup the data stored on the mobile device regularly, either on the Google Cloud or iOS Cloud, or an external memory or something, so that if anything goes wrong with the mobile phone, either the hardware or a software issue, you can easily back up the data. Do not call phone numbers containing in unsolicited emails or text messages, etc. The numbers which are not stored on your mobile phone, or if you're receiving a call from a unknown number, it's better not to answer those calls, because sometimes they are calling from unknown numbers, and the moment you will receive the call, they might get access to your contacts, or even they can transfer the credit that is there on the mobile phones. Be aware of the current threats affecting the mobile phones. Then, if the device is lost, or in a theft case, keeping mobile device out of sight when traveling is in high risk areas. Don't expose it too much outside if you're not using it. You never know if someone is interested in that latest mobile phone and would start following you in order to get access to that mobile. Avoid becoming distracted by what is on the device. Make sure that you are not using, especially when driving, or when you are doing something important, because it moves your focus from the actual thing that you're doing, keep it aside, or pull off your car to the parking lot, and then you can call the number and do whatever you want to do. But it's not recommended and highly not allowed in most of the countries that you must be making calls while you're driving, whether it is hands-free, whether you're connected through the Bluetooth or anything. It's not safe to call while you're driving. When holding a device, use both hands, especially the tablets and stuff like that. If you are using them, make sure that you are properly focused on it, and you are following the ergonomic principles as well, that the proper posture of your neck and back and stuff like that, in order to avoid any kind of physical harm. Do not use the devices on escalators or near the transit trains, etc., because you lose focus on what's coming in front of you, because people get very much involved in these devices when they are using it. White or red headphones cords may indicate they are connected to an expensive device. So change to less conspicuous color, which would not attract the people, because if they look at it as white or red, they might think that it is quite expensive, because the iPhone products are usually white in color, and JBL and stuff like that, their headphones comes in the red in color. So that's just a tip, just to be careful on that. If that does occur, do not resist or chase the thief. Contact the organization or the wireless carrier, and change all the passwords for the accounts accessed on the device. You can even track the device online through Google itself. If you can ask a friend who is having a mobile phone, you can log in through your username and password and can track, or even you can wipe it out, like wipe out everything on your mobile phone remotely. But it's a very foolish mistake to run or chase the thief if someone somehow got access to the mobile. Security features can be used to locate the device if it is missing. For example, an alarm. The device can generate an alarm even if it's on the mute mode. If you'll click on locate, it would start ringing unless and until you'll press a button on the mobile phone. Last known location. So it would show on Google Map that where your mobile was found last time. Locate the current GPS location of it. Remote lockout, or there are applications on the mobile phones. If someone is constantly trying to enter a wrong password, it would capture the image of that one and would be sent to you via email, or there are different ways through which you can get an idea that someone is trying to gain access to your mobile phone. Now that's it as far as this chapter is concerned. That's the summary of it. If you have any questions, please feel free to drop me an email. Thank you very much.